Alright, how's it going guys? My name is Stephen Costigan and today I'm going to be talking about for loops and for each loops. This may look a little bit different. I decided to re-record my video because my mouse pointer was not showing up in the previous video, so I had to go and troubleshoot that. Apparently that's just the recording software that I've been using. So anyway, I'm re-recording that now and here we go. So for a for loop, most of us should be familiar with fors and for loops, for each loops. Seeing as we've been using for each loops for our nav bars, and that's why I decided to use this as a case study for what we're doing here. So to start with, a for loop, we start off with 3 arguments in the top here. The first section is our start variable, which is used for our increment. In this case, x, which we're setting to 0, and then x, which starts at 0, as long as that is less than 10, which we're incrementing it each time, then run this whatever's inside the squiggly brackets. So while this condition is true, run this parameter, and after running this parameter, increment x. Now we can also minus minus, which takes from x. So if we had like x equals 20, then we could do, and this obviously doing like that, we could go the other way around. So if I did that, for example, I go 20 through to 10. So we can be creative, we can change things around, and a for loop is obviously a very popular form of loop for that reason, in that it's very flexible and so forth. Now this variable here, 10, and this number here as well can be set externally. So we could have a variable of y equals 10. Let's say some other script somewhere else determined how many times we would run this. Maybe we decided we wanted to limit to 10 or something like that. Now obviously that word example was something more for a for each loop, seeing as a for each loop pulls from an array, so the limit would coming from a SQL statement will come from a for each and not from a for, but you get the idea. So, and we can do z equals 0, and then we could just do x equals z and x equals y, and so whatever's in here can be highly customized. It doesn't have to be set in stone, and they can be pulled from other places and so forth. But for now, let's just leave them in there. Let me just show you that that's actually true. So save, and I'll hit refresh, and you see 0 through 10, which worked perfectly. Wait, I didn't actually have them in here. So z, and then y. Now, obviously, in the real world, it's not a good idea to use one-letter variable names because you lose track of what things are. But for the sake of loops, most people tend to use x or c or I as part of as a for loop increment, because it's just a simple thing and it doesn't really mean anything outside of the conditions of the for loop. Like I can't call upon x out here. I can't say y equals x because that x is restricted to what's in this parameter here. This is not, but this is, because this is part of the part of a statement. So anyway, let's move on. So just to prove how this works, let's go here and show each increment. So let's, just so I can only see it 3 times, so I see it on 8, 9, and 10, let's set an alert. So if I enable that, and then hit refresh, we should see 8, 9, and 10 after I've hit the button. So localhost says 8, localhost says 9, and 10. And then here's my 8, 9, 10 buttons. Pretty sweet. Alright, so let's move into the for each loop. So for the for each, I think it's first important to realize why we're doing it differently. And the reason is because the variable that we're working with is not any normal variable. So let's print that real quick. And I see, obviously I've lost everything else. Array at 0, array, you can see it's not as simple as being a number or something we can call upon. It's not a one-dimensional array, it's two-dimensional. It's got, for example, it's a almost like each row is a segment in the array. So if you can imagine it this way, you have, so variable, row, column, for example. So in our case, the first number is the first row of the variable. Then the second one is, you can see 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have 4 variables. So we have 0, we have 1, we have 2, 3, and 4. So in the first one, in that first thing is the row. So for each row, that first row is category name of cannon. The second row, category name is explosive, and so forth. So this here represents the column. So we might call upon, in this case, the category name of cannon or the category name of misc or whatever. But we want the category name at, let's say, 3. Just for example, the category name at 3 is rocket. Now obviously this wouldn't work as a statement, but this just helps us to visualize what's going on here. And so in order to access the information that's here, we need to do a special kind of loop, such as a for each loop, which is what we're doing here. So let's disable that and re-enable this and talk about it. So for this for each loop, and I'm going to leave that hidden for now, we have a nav list. Now ignore this part here, that's part of just some formatting I've got going on to make this home button white, so that when it's like, for example, on a different page, it's not white, and this also works in my nav thing. So that's just something I've done. So ignore this part, I've got it up here as well. But ignoring that, I'll just disable that for now. Let's just do that. I already got it up here, so it doesn't matter. But this is just for if you were on another page that's not that, then it would determine if that was the active page. Anyway, it's not worth talking about. So we have this here, which we're learning category is an increment of categories. So for each increment in categories as categories, what we're pulling. So as we were talking about with that array earlier, category name is what we're pulling from category. So each time we run through the loop, we saw that there was 0 to 5, 0 to 4, excuse me. Let me go back and let's have a look again. So it was, let's just print this again. Let's do both. So if we print that and get rid of the exit, then we see cannon is 0. So at position 0 here, category name of 0, we get cannon. At category name of 1, we get explosive, etc. All the way through to category 4, not 5, of trap. So that gives us all the way to the end there. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So there are 5 total, but we start at 4. So for categories, category is an increment each time. So it starts at 0 automatically, it knows that. And then each time we run through the loop, it's almost like we have this at the end there. It increments category to the next value each time we run through the loop. So for each value of categories, and we don't need to specify the numbers, that is a nice thing about doing a for each loop, is that in this case, we are only doing 10, and so there's a limitation. We know that 10 is the upper limit, whereas here there could be 20 values, and we don't know that off the top of our head. We just know that categories has a lot of things in it. And so category will go through every single increment until it reaches the end. So there could be 50 more of these, and we wouldn't have to change anything about this formula. It would just run the same way. So in order to pull every category out, we do the variable of category, which is our increment, and we could call this anything we wanted. We've got it called category because that helps us to understand it better. In this case, the category of 0 is cannon. Here is cannon, and so forth. So no, it is that one. Yeah, that's the one because it's category name here. So category name is cannon, and then for here it is explosive and so forth. So let's just see that in action. So for the first one, we should expect, and obviously we'll expect to see the first category as cannon. So if I hit refresh, cannon, and then we should see explosive and misc, and then what's next? Rocket, and then trap. So each time it incremented through, it found each one of them. So that's a pretty cool way of understanding it. Just seeing the little printing of it on there as well. That really helped me to understand it at the very least. So for each increment, we learn that. Anyway, I hope this has been helpful, and hopefully that, excuse me, not that, I wanted to hit save here and refresh over here. I hope this has been a fun little way to learn this. I was going to do a PowerPoint, but I thought this would be a more fun way to learn it. If you have any questions, post them in the comments for me. I'd love to hear any feedback you have, and I'll talk to you guys later. Thanks.